Oh, yes. Wonderful. Wonderful to see you all for another weekly edition of the No, Metaworld News. Oh dear. We got another good start there. I don't even know the name of my own program. Yes, this is Metaworld News, where we bring you highlights of information, snippets about virtual worlds, immersive spaces, on and off the web. VR haptics and related technology, and you name it, we got it. But we've got a manageable amount of it, is what I really should say. The interesting stuff from the week. So, my name is Mal Burns, M-A-L, first word, B-U-R-N-S, second word, but you have to squash me on the web. Everywhere I go, they keep making me a one-name thing called Malburns. I'm actually known in some quarters as Mr. Malburns.
Oh.
Because they think it's a surname or a first. I don't know anyway. But you'll find me on Twitter. That's the main point to make here. Twitter.com/Malburns, Malburns. And I tell you that because we're about to look at some headlines, and all of them you'll find the direct links on that Twitter feed over the course of the week. You'll also find a hell of a lot more links too. I've long since decided it's impossible to cover every link of the week on this show, so we really go in for the highlights here. So we're looking at the highlights for the week ending. Yep, the week ending today. And what is today, you say?
What is
Well,
today?
don't blame you, really. It's the 20th of June. That's it. So these are our headlines for the week ending 20th of June. Now, if you heard another voice lurking in the background, that is... No, sorry, Pussy, it's not. It's James. Yes, it's James. It's not you. Right, yes, none other than James Out Loud, who is... Well, the symbol on his T-shirt this week looks a bit like the London Metro, or the London Underground, as we call it. With where the I don't know what the writing underneath says, but that would normally be the name of the station. Tell us, James.
It does. It does. Yeah. Well, this is, I love a free T-shirt. I love a loud T-shirt, and this combined both of them together. This is another one by from Jamal's store, and let me just put that up on the screen here. And this is for a music group or a consortium of musicians in Sansar that meet on a semi-regular basis, and so they've made this shirt and symbol for their group called Intermodal. And so I'm happy. I have a free T-shirt. It's emissive and colorful, and thanks again to Jamal.
Pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
It does look like the London Underground symbol, I must say. I mean, if there was a bit missing on the right, it looks like Internet Explorer's icon too.
Right, right.
But that's long gone too. As is very shortly, we're going to lose Windows 10, the Windows that was never
So
going
I
to be
hear.
replaced.
Right.
And it may even be next week that Windows 11 leak. Everybody hates it, apparently.
Okay.
And even those people that find it palatable say that after all these years since Windows 95, Microsoft have yet again decided to copy the Macintosh. Their start menu, their start, they turn their, what do we call it, taskbar into the Macintosh dock. And they've just, well, basically it does look like the Mac, I've got to admit. Uh, why can't they come up with something inspiring and revolutionary and unique of their own? No chance in hell. We'll just copy Apple again. Anyway, that is coming soon. No doubt. By this time next week, we might even have some experience with it. But apparently, it's people are not altogether happy about that. And the other thing that people are very discontent about this week is that you'd think Facebook would actually slow down, but everything they're doing is still in beta, it seems, and yet they're already starting to stick advertising into the virtual worlds of their 3D worlds. So people are up in arms about that too. But we will continue with that when we come to the particular links. that are relevant there. Anyway, as I said, I'm Mal Burns. Find me at twitter.com/Mal Burns for links to the right through to the exact pages I'm going to be talking about as we go. Credit to James too, because apart from wearing nice loud t-shirts, loud, get it? James out loud, yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. Yep.
Apart from being a very loud person, he's not very loud actually, really.
Right.
He's also twiddling knobs. He's always fiddling with knobs. You know, they changed the view. You see my avatar, then you see me sharing my desktop, then you see another view of my avatar. One of these days, you might even see the audience, but they're very shy. They like clapping, but they're a bit shy when it comes to turning the camera on them. So you know, we don't want to upset them. So we'll just content ourselves with the fact they clap at appropriate moments. Okay. So let's get on with it. Talking of screen shares, so to speak, I guess James will be able to swing around and put on screen the first of our links. It's the same link we start with every week. In other words, it's the latest Monday link from scarredghost.com, which is SKARREDGHOST.com. And if you check out tomorrow, June 21st, you'll find another one called the XR Weekly for the appropriate date. So this is last Monday's, and it's a look back on the week before that. So it's pretty much a written roundup of the same period of time that our show covered last week. But it's a good starting point, and it's always a good blog post to check out. You know, just if you want a written catch-up of things. I'm not going to dwell on here. Just scrolling down, there always seems to be something that the Facebook people are up to. Other news, well, even that's related to Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know what Big Box is. Oh yeah, Big Box. Well, come on, talk about somebody else other than the God Emperor, please. Right, Apple have some minor XR news at their developer conference. Including a system similar to Google Lens, which is able to recognize objects and people using AI, etc. Other things there are pretty much haptic. They have something called object capture coming up, which lets you scan objects in 3D very easily, so thanks to photogrammetry in Apple devices.
Nice.
But again, you know, these are just minor tools for a mixed reality future. Obviously, Apple don't let you know about things like their own headsets and stuff until they're actually arrived, so to speak. Photon lens glasses launched. Anyway, as I said, this is old news. Well, no, not old news. It's just a week old, so we'll leave it at that. But if you want to catch up on the week before last, then go to scarredghost.com. And moving on now, again, we're starting at the very beginning of the week here, more or less. We go to Forbes. This one's easy, FORBES.com. And this is Kathy Hackey's column at Forbes, which, unlike Charlie Fink, she comes at the beginning of the week, whereas he comes at the end of the week, so to speak. She looks at a program called 60 Minutes in the USA, but unfortunately, I didn't have any luck watching that. Every time I found a useful link, I was told me the program's not available in the UK here, so I can't see it. But apparently, a lot of people were quite happy that the 60 Minutes is a major program, and it actually covered something they were calling the metaverse. I don't know what they did to explain to the mainstream viewers what the metaverse was, because at the moment a definition of the metaverse is all up in the air, and especially as it doesn't exist yet, quite frankly. It is conceptually in existence, but it's in no way a solid thing, shall we say. Anyway, she covers that and does a bit of a roundup of what they had on 60 Minutes. It's one of the longest running and most watched shows in American television, and it's exploring the future of the internet and is covering the metaverse. And she just leaves it at that, and then talks about what they discussed. As I said, whatever it is not available outside of the USA, which is a bit mean of them. So it's not that there's a UK edition or anything anywhere that I can check out instead. So very curious. Museum of Future Experiences. She covers that. She actually covers quite a lot here. So again, now most of the actual week stuff she's covering is actually the week before, but it's a different sort of brand of stuff. Her scope is much wider than just virtual worlds and stuff. And as the next our next post, for example, you'll see in a minute, it's a bit wider than virtual worlds. So she covers quite a lot. Oh, she's quite into all the non-fungible trinkets as well. Um, yeah, headsets include blockchain. Beijing-based company. Yeah, it's funny. China seems to be in favour in the States again all of a sudden. Well, maybe in favour is not quite the word. Anyway, moving on. That's at Forbes. And talking of a broad view, Upload VR, which we're loading now. Uploadvr.com. uploadvr.com. And looking at the online Museum of Other Realities and XR3 exhibition, and explaining how it's a clear vision for VR film festivals. Now, the XR3 exhibition is a joint project between Cannes, New Images, and the Tribeca Film Festival, all of which are on or have been on. And there are actually some what you might call in real life components to it as well, though obviously in this current crisis mode, there ain't too much of the real life stuff. um, and we did cover this week, this last week actually, in part because the Can XR, and well, some of it had already happened, and other bits were happening during the last week. Um, but a good roundup of examples of virtual reality stuff too, and planning festivals and stuff like that. Um, Profusely illustrated, as the saying goes. As you can see, masses to look at here. I remember that picture from last week, actually, for somewhere. Okay, so you'll find that at uploadvr.com for that one. So I'm just going to remove quick housekeeping at the other end. You can't see me here, but I'm removing the items I've already done, which makes life easier. Okay, and now we're moving on to Upload VR again, actually, uploadvr.com. And this is a feature about an open source version of a very popular program called Tiltbrush. Tiltbrush is a program that allows you to literally paint in 3D, in thin air, ultimately, inside headsets and stuff. And they've Google have ended their official development support for it, but there's an open source repository on GitHub, and they've now released a version, not Google, but the Open Brush project, a derivative made from the open source code of Tiltbrush, they call it. And you can get it for free, and it works for PC VR at the moment via Steam. Steam being a sort of portal app that you can open and then load your games from within it, so to speak, or art programs in the case of Tiltbrush. So find that at uploadvr.com and get more about it there. Right, now we've got a couple of videos coming up here. These you'll find on my Twitter feed, but they link through to my Mastodon feed. As you can see at the top there, it's at Metaworld at mastodon.social. And basically all the best videos of the week I shove up there. And they're reposted to Twitter anyway these days, so that makes stuff nice and easy. You can see here the YouTube link. I think it's probably just big enough that most of you will be able to read it on your screen. And this particular one is the Monday edition, the early or Monday, Tuesday edition, as it were, a VR download from earlier in the week. There we go.
Live.
I'm
live. Yeah, that's what we say.
Yep.
I
Hello,
watched that.
everyone, and welcome to another episode of VR Download.
Well, yeah, welcome to. Although this is Metaworld News, not VR.
We're confusing.
Oh dear! I got to be silly, haven't I?
It's fun.
I have a library of sound effects here, in case you haven't guessed, and I've somebody who's behind the scenes has been encouraging me to make use of them as appropriate as I go through. So anyway, this is the latest one there. You'll find it at VR Download. Oh no, actually, the YouTube account is Upload VR, by the way,
Correct. Right.
not VR Download. But quite a few during the course of the week, including the gamey kind of version they have at the end of the week. But VR Download itself is now the Monday show, and it was very good this week. I actually listened to the whole of it, if
Oh,
I
good.
recall. I think I did.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was some bit. I think it took some tangent that kept me gripped.
Yeah.
So I was actually listening to pretty much all of it. You know, out on audio, I must admit, I'm not
Yeah.
exactly glued to the screen for these things. But if I was listening to our own program here, I'm not sure I'd really be glued to the screen. We do give you a bonus, like these screenshots, of course. But you can still listen without them. Anyway, yes. So you'll find that you can if. I forget whether there's any easy way of getting to my Mastodon Social is the network. Mastodon.social is network like Twitter, and my handle is at Malburns on that as well. So that's where you can get all the videos I post. But anyway, that is a post to that one, and as I say, a good show it was as well. Right, remove that item, and. Here we go again. Same site again. Well, linked to Twitter. I can't actually see the YouTube address there. Basically, I'm going to click through to this actually. Reality Lab lectures. Sarah Tycho investigating our sensory realities through immersive art. This is. I'm clicking through here mostly so that we can actually find the site in question.
Hello, everyone.
Hello to you too.
Sarah Chico is working on a fascinating intersection of art, health, and immersive technologies.
Right. Well, she's introduced that, hasn't she? So there we go. It's actually 45 minutes long there. It's called the Reality Lab. Sarah Tycho is the sort of guest there. That wasn't the person you were watching introducing it. And they're talking about investigating our sensory realities through immersive art. And the account you want at YouTube is UW space reality space lab. And well, basically it's all about immersive art. Wonderful stuff.
Her goal is to improve physical and mental health.
What I'm going to be presenting today was actually a proposed PhD that I put together, and then after not.
Okay, that is actually Sarah Tycho, and if you can't tell by the accent, she's British. She's well, she's not based. I think she works out of London here some of the time, but is based sort of elsewhere. This particular recording, by the way, was a lecture given on screen, as you can see there, on Tuesday, May the 25th. So it was a good few weeks ago, but it was only on the 14th of June. Well, 5 days ago now that the video actually appeared online. So either click through from my Twitter feed or Mastodon feed, or go to UW Reality Lab at YouTube and look it up there. Right, remove her. Sad to say. Right, and okay, LifeWire. This is interesting. Another takeaway sort of semi-research thing. This is telling you why you lose track of time in VR. Gamers and other users experience time compression. Now, we had a similar article last week or the week before on the time compression. These things sort of tend to go a bit viral in their own subdomain kind of thing. You know, somebody writes an article, a week later somebody reads it and does their own take on it. And, you know, there's a few articles and you don't hear any more about it for ages. But it's actually not just VR. Anything that immerses you and really captivates you to the point of almost being addictive, you're going to lose track of time. You don't need to be in VR to experience that, but it is clear that something like VR, which is, you know, a total immersion thing, or mega immersive, shall we say, is obviously going to be a culprit, if that's the word. The effect may be related to the fact VR users don't have a visual representation of their body, said one researcher. And a stroke survivor who says she loses track of time during VR therapy sessions. Um, but I've got to admit, I mean, ever since I suppose nearly 2 decades ago, I popped into Second Life to see what the fuss was about. Um, It was a bit of a learning curve, but once I mastered the learning curve, it was pretty much impossible. It was so easy to lose track of time. Go in like early evening, suddenly play with the idea that you can fly, which I never do these days, but at the time it's in
Hmm.
the novelty. And suddenly it's way past midnight. You know, you've been in there for 7 or 8 hours. You might not have stopped to eat or get a drink or anything like that. You really do lose track of time. I think, however, that when you become a more accustomed to these things, then you actually don't suffer from that anymore. You learn that time is going by pretty much the same as it always does, and you sort of learn to balance out the illusion of what you're seeing on screen to the real world. But anyway, it's something worth talking about because at the beginning, and I suppose for many people, that loss of time is important. And it mentioned at the beginning somebody who'd been in therapy. It seems to me that that might be a classic case because if somebody's undergoing therapy using virtual reality, they are presumably strapped in maybe to the headset or whatever, as this lady is, and sort of because of the requirements of the therapy itself, especially if somebody's mobility impaired or something like this, then it may be they're less able to take a break and get up and reorientate with real time. But you know, every is different. It's obviously a factor in virtual worlds, but I wouldn't say it's a mega factor in the long term. Um, some sort of time compression happens in many situations, especially where we are highly engaged or immersed in an activity, such as playing a video game or even indeed just engaging with others. So, how many times as a young person have you gone to a rather wonderful active party, you know, and lost track of time? You're all having fun. Why do you want? You don't want you look at your watch every 5 minutes, do you? Well, maybe when you're 14 and you're meant to be home for a curfew, but you know, you generally speaking, you just let yourself go. The only thing you're vaguely worried about is the next day. And you're certainly not thinking about it when you're partying. Okay. So as I said, this article, however, is at a site called lifewire.com, LIFEWIRE.com, and just need to tell my notificationals that I want to be in do not disturb mode. Thank you, notifications. Go away. There you are. Right, so lifewire.com for that article about losing track of time in VR. Right, moving on back to another video, again via the Mastodon account. This is a live in VR interview with Supernatural's head of fitness, Leanne Pedanti. Right now, I mean, when I include videos on the stream, some of them aren't directly to do with virtual worlds or social worlds as such, but one of the biggest winners in VR at the moment, over and beyond games per se, it's not a huge market yet by any manner of means, but one of the big winners, especially during the COVID pandemic, have been fitness apps. I remember, well, actually, you've got a couple of friends who made them back in the days of, VHS tapes when, Get Fit with Sheila, or exercise the abs with Abby, or something like that. Well, it's sort of a natural sort of thing for people to go into VR now and sort of come in and join me and do your exercise with me in VR. You can do plenty of exercises standing on the spot or sitting down without actually walking into walls. So it's a reasonably practical thing for people to be exploring. One of the leaders in the film is this lady, Leanne Pedanti, who's, I think that's the real name, though the name Pedanti reminds me of pedometers and, movement, but never mind. And she's got a company called Supernatural. So actually, we better just for the sake of it, I better go through to YouTube for this one, just so I
Okay.
can give you the account. It's a bit.
It was a good interview. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clicking the button now.
Oh, you've seen it, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, here we are. Oh, of course, this is Upload VR yet
Hello, everyone.
again.
Thank you for joining us. In Hamilton here. I'm joined by Leanne Pedante. You are the
Okay, well, no wonder James has seen this. This is his favourite channel, isn't it?
Yep.
Uploadvr.com again. So it's the same place you see the VR download. All one word there, so upload and then VR, no space between them. And yeah, it's about well, it's 35 minutes or so. The adverts indeed, the program, the interview, and yeah, as James said, it's a great interview.
head of fitness at Supernatural, correct?
Correct. Hi, it's so good to be here.
Thank you so much. I feel like we've met, even though we haven't. And I'm curious if that's is that a thing for you? Have you met?
Yeah, they go into this for the introduction. Actually, I mean, actually, look at that poster of hers, that publicity poster. Well, if you saw that on a billboard, you know, she's pointing at you. She's in your face. I mean, no wonder he thinks he's met her. He's
Yeah.
probably seen the advert everywhere he's been. Okay, anyway, so Upload VR is the account you want at YouTube for this one. And yeah, another great interview, in fact. Moving on, back onto some of the text links here for a short minute or two. And two related links here, both of which have got a bit of retweeting. This first one is a cursory post really at theverge.com, theverge.com, and asks a very simple question: is Facebook cornering the VR market? It certainly intends to, and it's certainly going that way. Whether it should be allowed to, or whether it ultimately will, in any way, take over, I don't know. Imagine that over the past year, Facebook had managed to acquire the Battle Royale game Fortnite, kid-focused game creation Roblox, and the best-selling game of 2020 called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. For many reasons, such a spree of acquisitions would never happen. One of the biggest is that the antitrust scrutiny has made it increasingly difficult for Facebook to acquire anything that resembles a social network. It was more than a year ago that the company bought the aforementioned moribund gift search engine Giphy, which had a few prospects for success as a standalone company. And the United Kingdom, here of course, competition watchdog have now blocked that deal from closing, warning that the acquisition would somehow harm Facebook's competitors. However, last week, Facebook did manage to buy Big Box VR, who make a Battle Royale game called Population 1, which really is one of the biggies. And it operates on a model similar to Epic Games' Fortnite, so it sort of directly competes with Fortnite. The week before, no, not the year or the month before, the week before, they bought Unit 2 Games, who are maker of the Creator platform. And they've also bought Beat Games, who are maker of the hit game Beat Saber. They don't seem to have heard of a Monopoly's Commission or whatever it's called in the States. They just buy everything they like the look of and integrate it. And if it doesn't work out, they just stomp on it and it's never heard from again. This is not just the Facebook people that actually do this, but the God Emperor seems to be particularly adept at doing it. So Facebook is going to probably have a near monopoly in VR software before it even matters, he's tweeted. They will literally have reinvented themselves for a new paradigm shift in computing by the time regulation gets around to addressing it in its current state, which of course is sad but true fact that by the time governments and regulators actually wake up to these things, they become whoever they're trying to stop is already an institution and has the kind of power that forget countries going to war. How many years before the world is divided between Facebook Soft and China? But China's a huge corporation. It actually integrates everything within its territory. Um, so they're probably a little bit worse than the Facebook as well. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that's the question: is Facebook cornering the VR market? The answer there is at theverge.com, theverge.com. At least thoughts about a possible answer rather than the answer. The answer would be pushing it a bit, I think. However, the next thing is equally relevant, and this one, everybody everybody who follows me seems to be retweeting this particular one. This is vrfocus.com, vrfocus.com, and you know, every so often the entire internet seems to get into an uproar about something. More often than not in the modern era, it is Facebook that causes the uproar. And as you can see, Facebook has now begun testing VR advertisements, starting in something called Shooter Blaston. Everybody knew this would be coming. This is Facebook's model. What is surprising, and surprising to me too, that they would actually, you would think they would build their platform, not Facebook platform, but the new platforms, Horizon or whatever, before they start this advertising thing. I mean, after all, take something that's been around 20 years old, like Second Life, right? There's lots of adverts there, but they're the users. It's user created, and users are advertising their own products and stuff. You're not going to walk around in Second Life and find a billboard advertising Toyota or your next car or your next washing machine or whatever in the real world, so to speak. But when you think about it, there is a ready-made audience in there, right? And so a slow introduction of adverts would not be too obtrusive. But Facebook are putting the adverts in before they've even built the fucking the thing, whatever the thing is. It just seems to be that they're going in there very, very early. And whatever I think of Facebook, I mean, why, sure, if you're going to have adverts in there, better build the platform in such a way that you can slot the adverts in. But why this early? Unlike ads you might see online or whilst playing a mobile video game, Facebook is working on unobtrusive ads. There is no such word in the God Emperor's dictionary. Unobtrusive, indeed. Often it's so-called in-play ads that don't suddenly pop up and ruin your gameplay experience. Want to bet? Instead, just the above GIF indicates these adverts are naturally installed into the scenery, just like you see at a football match or an F1 race. Well, that is bad news. I can't stand seeing those television screens which seem to show more adverts than the race or the football. Not that I'm interested in football races anyway. Fortunately, as you can see in my browser here, there's a great big square there where the ad has been detected and removed. So it'd be quite interesting to see what happens if you get an ad blocker software that works in virtual worlds. Will you suddenly walk into an empty space in 3D because the adverts, whether it's a billboard or whether it's a 3D object, if it's an advert, it's been blocked and it will leave a hole in the world. Fun stuff. Anyway, the sort of adverts coming to VR has everybody very upset, and as I say, I mean, although long term it might be inevitable, I mean, I don't think, having it this early. VR is slightly different due to most apps requiring upfront payment, but the market is much smaller. So there could be some way to go before ads in VR generate significant funding streams. Well, I think that goes without saying, but it's not going to stop them doing it, is it? Right, okay, let's move on. You know what I'm like when the God Emperor's domain is topic of conversation. Back to the videos. And this one, this is the CEO of a company called Genies, talking about the future of avatar technology in a digital world. Once again, I'm going to click through to YouTube here to just make sure I can give you the user's account. Oh, here we are. Yeah, this is actually very short. It's CNBC Television. and it was published on the 8th of June. Unlike the 60 Minutes program, this one actually allowed me to get to see this. And since it's only 15 seconds, I'm going to play it. You got a magic touch.
Shawn Mendes, Cardi B, Justin Bieber, and more. These are avatars of celebrities that were made by a startup called Genies. It creates virtual identities in the digital world.
Right. Actually, the whole thing here is only about 6 minutes, but when I said 15 seconds, I was talking about the intro advert. You want the account you want here is CNBC Television, space between CNBC and television. And yeah, Genie's CEO on the future of avatar technology in a digital world. It's obviously just a clip from some show they've had on the network, and they've extracted it as a kind of news item, but it's quite fun anyway. So yeah, as I said, it's on my Twitter feed, but you can go to youtube.com and go to CNBC Television. Let's put that one away. Okay, now this is a rather odd one, very odd one. This is a site called news.bitcoin.com. Yeah, news.bitcoin.com. Now, Bitcoin, of course, is the original, well, maybe not the original, but an early one of the virtual currencies that we heard so much about. You know, people nowadays seem to have quite a lot of savings or whatever in Bitcoin. You know, it predated the current non-fungible whatevers and stuff. But what is now? I can't swear to the accuracy of this, even though I was around in Second Life since the beginning. I must say that Linden dollars and the trading and all that stuff never particularly interests me. I let my partner handle all that stuff anyway. I mean, you know, had no real interest. But what this article just popped out of nowhere on the Bitcoin site, and they liken, or they actually draw attention to the fact that Second Life played an important role during Bitcoin network's early years. In fact, some large Linden dollar shareholders, Linden dollar holders, who swap their virtual tokens for Bitcoin may well be crypto millionaires today. Trading virtual Linden dollars in the early days, they go and look at this, well, they basically followed through. They go back to 2003, so yeah, it's what 18 years ago now. Yeah. How initially it saw rapid growth and Second Life's virtual economy maxed out in 2011 when Weirvox allowed Linden dollars and BTC to trade together. I'm not sure what all this is about, but I'm sure some of you readers that are interested do. Bitcoin had a fascinating relationship with Second Life because users' Linden dollars could be exchanged for fiat, which gave BTC an alternative fiat gateway in the early days. Not only did the two virtual currencies form a symbiotic relationship, but it also caused people to speculate on which virtual asset was the better. Now, Fearvox are now defunct, but they also opened the floodgates of Second Life's virtual economy in 2012 through to 2013. During this time, Second Life's bustling growth, speculators actually argued that Linden dollars could become real money and a legitimate virtual economy. And I do remember a lot of talk about that, referencing studies 2011 or whatever. A journalist sold his entire Linden dollars for Bitcoin, and a user swapped 3 billion US dollars for Bitcoin for 650,000 Linden dollars. That doesn't sound right. It sounds like a raw deal, actually, but never mind. I will get into a real pickup. I've been trying to think of getting to financial type stuff. Yeah. James Orr at New World Notes, obviously, he penned an article in 2012 at the time. And he also laughed at Bitcoin 3 years later. think he's probably changed his mind on that now. So, yeah, it's looking at the history there anyway. It really stops a good few years ago now, because clearly the Linden dollar, although very valuable to Second Life, and the actual trading company that the Linden Labs own is actually responsible for the financial transactions here in Sansar too. So these virtual currencies are still very much in Linden Labs domain, but they don't in any way compete with Bitcoin and all the major NFT stuff flying around these days. But an interesting article anyway, and almost as interesting, not so much for the financial topic, but also a little bit of history about Second Life there. So you'll find it at news.bitcoin.com. Right, remove that. So I'm going to move ahead to Cyan Planet. Cyan Planet have passed the fundraising goal to create a digital twin of the ocean for exploration in VR. This I find is fascinating. I'm going to see if I can toggle the website here. Okay. Before I came on air, I think I was just discussing in passing, or mentioned in passing with James, possible future water wars
Oh yeah. Yep.
raging around our planet. This actually is quite interesting. Obviously, as environmental things, but there's a phenomenon. It's been around for quite a while. The biggest virtual world I can think of that, well, there was Metasuit did one, and I even had an avatar in that, which is and there's another one called Twinity. There's probably more by now. Instead of being called virtual worlds, they tend to be called mirror worlds. And what they did is they took something like Trafalgar Square, the West End of London, Oxford Street, or in the case of Metasuit, New York and Times Square, and they mapped them not from Google Maps. They usually used open source mapping, and they basically constructed a virtual world based on real world maps. And I think the idea of some of these was as time would go by, you'd stake your claim on properties in the real world in their virtual form. I can imagine actually if it had been done straight like that, there'd have been an awful lot of mess. Some aspiring person would actually take a claim on, I don't know, Madison Square Gardens, and it wouldn't be the owners operators of Madison Square Gardens that did it. It would just be somebody who took a claim, and down the line there'd be some kind of dispute between the owner of the virtual version and the owner of the real world version. So you can see problems there. But the idea of a mirror world, we're coming a lot closer to it. Although these days it's probably something you see in the long term thread of augmented reality rather than virtual reality. Because augmented reality already treats the real world as a virtual space and provides the layers of information on top of it, as opposed to the full jump into something totally virtual. But back in that time, no, I don't remember anybody mentioning anything about the non-continental masses of the planet. And what these people are trying to do is they want to actually literally map a virtual underwater version of the world. Map the oceans, not just, that we map oceans all the while for various reasons, find our way around, find exotic wildlife and things like that. But we don't really know the underwater world to actually just jump in and check things out. And if they have a digital twin of the ocean, it will make the underwater world accessible for everybody whilst digitally preserving marine life for future generations. I'm not sure what they mean by digitally preserving. Does that mean they'll find a fish that's going extinct and create it digitally, so we've got a virtual copy for the future? But anyway, they think it's a unique opportunity to experience the underwater world from the perspective of the marine animals, allowing users to explore the oceans using a mobile device, computer, or ideally a virtual reality VR headset, etc., etc. So really interesting. I'll leave you to follow this link if you want to read more about it. I think you should. The site, as you can see, is called organics.org, AUGANIX.org. And yeah, they were just back in our read review there. I don't think there's, yeah, it's a fairly short article, so there's not really much more. But there is a link to the company's website too, um, if you want to know more in depth about it. So very interesting to read that one, I think. Now, the V&A stands for Victoria and Albert, and the Victoria and Albert Museum, in fact, in London here, is opened its virtual vault of contemporary art with an exhibition of architectural paintings. This is weird. Basically, they've got stuff in their vaults. They're actual. It's a huge place, the V&A. It's like many museums and art galleries. There's 1,000 times more than is on show is buried in the vaults in the basements, and they rotate what they can show, and some stuff never gets shown. There's not room. But anyway, they've basically launched a virtual gallery showcasing work from their archives, and it seems to start with an artist called Ben Johnson, and they're showing 10 paintings and stuff, but I'm not exactly sure what is here. There's a virtual panel discussion as well, which this website, Design Boom, I'll give you that in a minute, attempted that. I'm not exactly sure what is going on here. This looks like an AR sort of thing where you've got the real, well, that could actually be virtual too. But you've got the vault superimposed on the thing, but it doesn't really nice picture, but it doesn't tell exactly the whole story. And it's the same there with an aerial view of the virtual pavilion. So you can read about it here, or better still, if you're in London or nearby, maybe now lockdown is easing a bit, you can get in a petrol can and maneuver yourself to the actual V&A museum if you can get into it. I imagine they allow people in again now, even if it's limited numbers at a time and you're wearing masks, etc., etc. Yeah, so this release is actually at a design site called designboom.com. That's DESIGNBOOM.com. Design Boom, as in boom. Have I got a boom? No, I don't think I have. Well, nah, just
No.
a whining. No, just a whining dog, I'm afraid. Well, actually, an elephant could be a boom. That's close to being a boom, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. You know what elephants are like. What else is it? The original sonic boom. Who needed Concord? We had elephants. Yeah. Well, yeah. I can hear a skeptic mumbling in the background there. Okay, let's move on. Designboom.com was that one. And moving on, we're now on psychologytoday.com. I really come up with them, don't I? Right. I'm not even going to spell that. Psychology Today is all one word, .com. Oh, what the hell. PSYCHOLOGYTODAY.com. I'm not going to do that too often, just in case. Right, 5 ways virtual reality can help us understand human behavior. Well, you don't understand human behavior, you say? Well, pop in the virtuality and maybe you will. Researchers have identified 5 benefits of using VR over traditional research tools. For things like surveys, observing behaviors, using Confederate actors in experiments, helping psychologists learn a lot about human behavior. However, many crucial questions remain. Yes, they do. Right, okay. So they go on about the advantages to make up the acronym DREAM: data collection, realism, experimental control, adaptability, and mobility. The acronym being DREAM. That's quite a good one, actually. Not sure I remember it, but okay. They talk about capturing the data, etc., etc. It's all very technical, but I think you actually need to have an interest in this to plough through the whole article. But it's in a reasonably layman's language. And they do say you can use VR because the virtual environment itself can be adapted to simulate any given situation, constrained only by researchers' imaginations. Notice the emphasis on the researchers there, but a bit patronising, but you get the idea. Yeah, quite a lot to read in that article. So psychologytoday.com for that one. Right, another movie hits the screen here. Right, again, this is at YouTube. Okay, this is curious. It's about driving a remote cultural evolution. And our main interest here is the fact that Craig Kaplan, one of the participants here, is the Chief Customer Officer at Vibella. Vibella is a very popular virtual world platform which is on the web and has a standalone client. It's not a rich graphical experience like Second Life, OpenSim, Science Space, but it has proved very popular before and during the pandemic for businesses to hold and education to hold meetings and things. And so he's interviewed by Melissa Daimler of Daimler and Partners. I'm just going to go through because
I'm Craig Kaplan, Chief Customer Officer at Verbella. Verbella is a...
Okay, they introduce themselves, as you can see. The site you want for this is something called a Running Remote. That's the name of the YouTube account. And this session was recorded on 21st of May, but again, it only arrived on 15th of 4 days ago or something on YouTube. So running, one word, and then remote is the name of the account you want for that. It's 50 minutes long, the actual discussion. I didn't read it, so I didn't watch it all the way through, but it seemed to be quite interesting. I probably would have watched the rest of it if I'd had time. Right, where are we? Move that one. Okay, talking of broadcast, but this one, of course, is a podcast. It's the audio thing, and this is only one this week by the look of it, from voicesofvr.com. So VOICESOFVR.com. Number 995. We are 5 away from the, well, number 1,000. I hope you go do something special. Anyway, let's look at Browner's Garden, which is an augmented reality experience as a healing balm to share memories of those you love with Lady Phoenix. Lovely little picture to go with that too. It's an AR experience. It premiered this year at Tribeca, and it's created by somebody called Lady Phoenix in collaboration with some others, and it was done to honour the life of her sister, Breonna Taylor. It's you can get an iOS app for it, and you can actually they give you a link here where you can go to try it out as well. Then of course it's the podcast itself, the interview with her and Kent By, which you can either play from here or you can actually find it on not only on his website but on just about every podcast platform that there is. So voicesofvr.com for that one. Moving on again. Now this one's nice. There was a previous article about this all months ago actually, but this is a friend of ours Krista Lopez. She is Christina Lopez or Lopes. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
Lopes.
people keep telling me I pronounce her name wrong. I've known her for so long, but I guess it's because she's got that Spanish Mexican sort of accent. I think of it as somehow being a Lopez. I don't know. Anyway, she at UCI. Oh God, what is UCI again? Never mind. Anyway, she's professor of informatics and she sits in a courtyard waiting as her students slowly trickle into class. In front of them is a series of large objects, the topic of today's lecture. She reaches out, touches the air, sending them are floating in front of her, and the object is instantly replaced with a complex line of code. The classroom is not outside in a courtyard or park. It's not even on campus. Her classroom exists entirely in cyberspace, created by a program she helped design called Open Simulator. And yeah, so good, nice little bit of publicity here for Open Simulator. And also worthy of mention, reminding everybody, is that as well as helping on Open Simulator, she single-handedly literally invented the hypergrid, which is a system that allows Open Simulator grids, which are a bit like Second Life, mini Second Life grids, to actually come together as all one massive grid, which is actually gigantic inside. There are thousands of individual simulators all connected together to make one huge virtual world. It's not a publicly popular sort of high street type thing with massive shops and lots of people in one space like Second Life. It's something with much more space and much more of an appeal for individual communities, rather than well, the problems with the real world is the same as Second Life. It's overpopulated. Sorry. So Open Similar is the virtual solution to the world's overpopulation problem. I thought James was going to laugh at that one, but it was gone crazy.
I didn't see it funny, but
I've obviously got it wrong. I'll just rely on an animal instead. Okay. Okay, no more trying to be funny on that score. Okay, you'll find that in news uci.edu, so news.uci.edu. And there's a lovely, that's a picture of the real world, Krista, superimposed on. That's actually the Open Simulator conference, which we are part of.
Yeah.
So it's rather than her region, that the classroom they're talking about here is a different cup of tea, really.
Would you say Open Simulator is more the metaverse than anything that currently exists? Or do you think because it's Open Simulator, it's still a closed platform?
No, I think what Krista here did actually with the hypergrid, right, on top of Open Sim,
right,
is lends itself to being a prototype of what a metaverse will be or could be. Obviously, we're not only got to take different platforms into account and sort out interoperability, which she partly did with, by sorting them out within the Open Simulator platform model. But there's the messaging services and interaction between grids. There's a lot of stuff that isn't fully formulated there yet, and of course, in the real world, I mean, AR and VR, I think, are going to be very, the whole MR and XR thing is going to be very much part of that sort of whole. What, the problem for a future metaverse really is going to be, if anybody comes along and prove to be major players, they may collaborate on interoperability and things, but the worry there is it will be a gigantic walled garden, like Facebook and Google and Apple will make the metaverse between them, and they'll probably hire Epic Games to gamify it for them. I don't know, but there are so many elements that come into it. But certainly before the pandemic and before these vast amounts of things that came online, really, you had Open Simulator, Second Life, and Science Base, and there weren't really many what we call virtual worlds around. So at one point, everybody thought the metaverse was going to be Second Life. Forgetting that it's a walled garden, and it won't play nice with other. Despite the similarities, it doesn't play nice with Open Sim.
Right.
So, I mean, if at some point Linden Lab, for example, decide that, let's say OpenSim automatically gets a boost and more people suddenly realise how good and easy it is to use, and it's worth the learning curve, and then maybe Second Life's fortunes fade a bit, and they think, well, maybe it's in Linden Lab's interest to allow people to move in and out of their platform, like a border control.
Yep.
So who knows? Who
Who
knows?
knows, right?
None of us know what the future. I think there's a very real danger that OpenSim will probably like Second Life itself, which is a lot bigger in terms of users, although less big in terms of space. And these could become backwaters on the internet. Like they could remain. I think is the word to say here, backwaters. For those of us who know about them, they're incredibly useful, and introducing people to them, we can make them viral, but there's a limit, to I've got people I've introduced Second Life to, let alone OpenSim, and Second Life in fairness actually scares a lot of people off, and it's not the learning curve, it's the fact that that people go in, and well, I remember one friend of mine who was in there, and the novelty of being surrounded by these sort of cartoons and doing things with them wore off when she realised all of a sudden that these were real people driving the avatars, and she was just scared shitless and walked out immediately. She couldn't handle it. It was like walking into a room and she's the centre of attention, sort of thing. She really just it didn't gel, And unfortunately, Second Life, that is the only way to go in. There's no way of avoiding that unless somebody gives you a link to a region with nobody on it where you can walk for hours and see nobody. You're going to be stuck in in that engagement with other people. I mean, it is a social platform. That's why it's called social worlds. So yeah, interesting. But yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, James, as usual, I've gone on for half an hour trying to answer it, but it's as a prototype metaverse, certainly, I think so. In some ways, even Second Life or Walled Garden was, because of the way it was structured and how it was represented. And even though it's owned by Linden Lab, there was the illusion that being a user-created world, then the property belonged to the creators.
Yep.
Even though the tools belong to Linden Labs, and you can't have it. If you've got the simulator and the tools belong to the lab, it doesn't really matter what you create. There's no way of getting out and celebrating your ownership. But yeah, as a prototype, certainly, and even now, I still recommend OpenSim for a lot of people, because once you've got the grits with it, it's easy. If you've got something you want to do, and you're not willing to cough up money to Linden Lab, then OpenSim is perfect. You go almost as much you can do, and there's plenty of stuff in there you can get to use as well. If you want a nice costume for your avatar, you can get one in there, often for free. You don't have, you don't have to moan that you can't get your costume out of Second Life. And there's commercial marketplaces in OpenSim as much as there are freebie places. So I'm still very keen on it. I don't spend much time. In fact, my own grid is not actually online at the moment, and it takes a bit of management. But to get a space on somebody's grid, you can usually find a grid on OpenSim that, if you're into literature and books, for example, you can look up Nara's Nuke, Nara Malone's sim, or if you're into holding conferences, you've got the community conference grid you see in that picture. If you're into medieval roleplay, I know there are plenty of grids that are into that, and Trekkies. There are about 1,000 different Star Trek facilities scattered around the OpenSim metaverse, and also the OpenSim metaverse is really getting big. I say it's a small backwater and it doesn't get covered as much, but if you look at the land areas, I mean, one of the few things that the so-called hyper big business site of Maria's does these days is she still produces a lot of statistics on the expansion of regions, the expansion of users and stuff like that. And although there are little swings back and forth here and there, the general trend is that the land mass is growing, the number of users are growing. It's far from shrinking, should we say? It's not imploding. Put it that way. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, that article's good. Plug for Krista as well. Mm-hmm. It calls her Christina here. I'm getting confused. I've always called her Krista. She has another name too because she's a musician, but I'm not going to go into that on air. Right. So yes, news dot ic sorry UCI dot edu, and we'll put that one away. Move down, and what is the future of immersive storytelling? Right, this is quite interesting. This is a site called Mia Tech, MIAT dot TECH. So the suffix is tech, if you see what I mean. And hang on, just give me, I've got to get my other magnifier here, because just check I've got that name right.
I see
Yeah,
a
that's
scarred.
right.
I see a scarred ghost on there.
Yeah. MIAT dot TC. Yeah, and actually, this isn't Scar Ghost's website. This is a site where they've interviewed him. Anthony Vitillo, of course, is the Scar Ghost, for want of a better word. And they were talking about the future of immersive storytelling, and he is being interviewed as opposed to doing the interviewing. So the site MIAT have launched the first international immersive storytelling masterclass, and for this occasion, they spoke with Anthony Vitillo, entrepreneur, consultant, blogger, expert, future story, blah 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 blah. Yes, it is indeed the Scarred Ghost. In fact, maybe we have a sound effect for that. I don't know. I haven't got one, but I know somebody else. Yes, it's the good old one, isn't it? The closest I can come is a wolf or another wolf. Oh, we are having fun here, aren't we? Anyway, yes, wonderful. I mean, we of course have his own blogs coming up, which are huge epics in themselves as a rule. But it is nice to see him talking about himself for once, rather than talking about other things. Though, in fact, in the course of the conversation, he is sort of talking about other things as well, like he does in his own blogs. But yes, as we noticed, there he is, Anthony Vitillo, the Scar Ghost, at miat.tech, MIAT.TECH. Moving onward and upward or downward or wherever we're going, I'm not quite sure. Oh, yes, this is nice. I'm sure many of you, via this program or the web or anything else, have heard of VR Rosie. I think she's often known as. She's another fellow Brit, I have to say, although up north somewhere, I think. Although she does stuff in London too, I think. She's become very prominent since headset VR came along. We mentioned Tilt Brush and the open source Tilt Brush and things like that earlier. She basically paints and creates in 3D, and she doesn't just do the things to be seen in 3D. She actually does it in 3D while she's in the environment she's creating, so to speak. And there've been videos of this. It's quite fascinating, just the technical challenge of filming the videos where you've got a merging of a real life virtual environment plus a real life person in a headset and then doing the painting and stuff. Anyway, this is actually an interview with her as opposed to her work itself. And hey, Rosie, tell us what you do. And she says she spends the majority of her day inside the metaverse. So I'd like to know what her definition of the metaverse is. Anyway, since she's in it most of the day, apparently, she creates games. She's a 3D animator, and she works in game engines and does art in virtuality, which covers quite a lot. I often say that I use space as a canvas, and I get work on some really exciting projects with some very exciting people. And she goes on about traditionally she's a fine artist, etc. What was the first thing she created in VR? I forget what the answer to that was. It wasn't straightforward. Marshmallows? No, I don't think so. Anyway, great little interview with her. I'm sure many of you think, oh, yeah, another Rosie, being familiar with her work, but I can't recall actually reading any other interview with her per se about, sort of behind the scenes with her motivation and stuff like that. So you'll find this at the site actually, or the link I've got here is join join.mastered.com. So that's join.mastered.com. So join.mastered.com. And lovely little interview that is, getting to know her a bit better. Right. So we start with this the XR week peak, but we start ending with the week in XR. This is Charlie Fink's end of the week column at Forbes, forbes.com, of course. And he's looking back on Palmer Lucky's drones, E3 VR announcements, and the Tribeca, latest in the Tribeca list. There is actually, it's in my feed, but it links here too. There is actually another feed at Forbes called the Tribeca Awesome List, which features all the stuff they kind of like there. I haven't included it here, but it is in my feed if you want it, and you can link to it from here. But there's a link to the self-same thing for the Tribeca Film Festival, and again, this review is just Charlie's roundup of the week, so to speak. And oh yeah, there's quite a big thing this week about making yourself into a Pixar character. I can't actually be bothered to download it onto my phone, but there's Viola's AR app, I think it's called. You give them a photo and they make a 3D cartoon. They're quite nice if you like that kind of thing, but the novelty will wear off. I wouldn't want to use something so stylized as a regular picture or anything. But yeah, and there are so many apps around on mobile devices that allow you to play with your photograph. If it had been available on the desktop, I might have done a quick conversion or something to try it out, but it's too fiddly when it's on the phone. Yeah, and of course, a plug for the Week in XR, or This Week in XR, I suppose it's officially called, with the podcast version. And speaking of which, I shall move on. And here we have the video. Also, I guess yesterday or the day before, Charlie Fink is back. He was absent last week, if you remember, with Ted Schilowitz. And their guest is Lauren Hammonds, and they're talking about the Tribeca Film Festival. You'll find if you go to YouTube, it's simply called This Week in XR. I got to click through because I bet you've forgotten, got it wrong. It's not Forbes. No, I am right. This Week in XR. There we are. This Week in XR. Four words. And yeah, there they are, Charlie and Ted, and their guest from the Tribeca Festival will be coming up. So let's put those items away. And we have another video here, right, which is season 3, episode 26. Good grief! Oh yeah, this is Between Realities. The YouTube account you want is, in this case, I'm certain, called Between Realities. And what is interesting around this one, I don't know whether you've seen this, James, but the guests, Jamie and Sina, are actually from Upload VR.
I haven't seen it, but
yep. So they are actually the guests on this alternative podcast, which isn't theirs, so to speak. So
very fun.
Yeah.
Like the video if you could, and check out.
Let's see if they've got.
Super key.
Oh yeah, there they are.
That'd be great, I guess. Like, but it's an interesting one to do because obviously we've all just spent a week watching E3, and you watch Capcom shows, you watch Square Enix shows, you watch Xbox.
Right, we can see what's going on there. Basically, they've got the guests there. This one lasts for 1 hour 36 minutes, so it's not a short one. But these are all usually great fun to watch. They are on the more serious side of videos. We don't feature here too many game casts, for want of a better phrase. We're much more about plugging the ones with the conversation and stuff like that in them.
And you know,
you can't pause without getting these things these days, can you? There we go. Right, okay, so yeah, season 3, episode 26. God, they are coming along. Yeah, you find that on Between Realities at YouTube, or just go on my Twitter feed or my Mastodon feed and find it there. Between Realities VR podcast. And moving on to the next one, which is another video, one of the last few. This one is great. I actually she does 2 or 3 videos a week, which you'll find. Twitter.com/Malburns_writer. That's Malburns Writer is my Second Life avatar name, and I run a feed there for arts and destinations in Second Life still. But Isabel Sharon does a load in the week, everything from arts to destinations to all sorts of things. Sorry, what am I talking about? This is Chaos Princess, not Isabel. Isabel's done a similar thing to this week. I'm getting confused here. Right, Chaos Princess is, she talks about living in the future of social world. She is a PR person to Tivoli. She's also very prominent here in Samsar and all over the place. And this one is a video essay on future life design in social VR. Illustrated by examples of our lockdown dance parties. Right. Let me see. This is 20 minutes long, so I'm obviously not going to play all of it.
There they can find a variety of avatars, which are clickable and also like easy.
Right, this is all showing you a bit around Sansar here, which of course is the platform we're broadcasting from at this very time.
Talks, since the music there was only to hear so that you could.
So basically, she's talking about living out the future
animation. So everybody
in VR and
appear moving, and that.
In this case, focusing on Sansar. The reason I got confused here is that a lady called Isabel Sharam, which is not on this list. I'm going to have to try and find it maybe next week.
Mal, while you're doing that, your avatar stood up in Sansar.
Oh God, sorry, I lost my screen and pressed the space bar to get my monitor back, but unfortunately, wonderful.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Not looking where I'm going. I'm too busy looking at the other screen. Yeah. Both of which, of course, are Sansar. Yeah. So anyway, you can find this her account. We sort of pronounce that as Chaos. I think she's more or less happy with Chaos Princess. XaosPrinces. That's her account over on YouTube, and it's 20 minutes long. This, so it's a nice little ramble around, around Santar, basically. Now, Isabel Sharan, who is a blogger who normally blogs in Second Life, I'll have to look elsewhere to see if I can find. No, I've got too much open here really to do it. Her name is Isabel Sharan. You'll find she has a YouTube account under that name. Isabel space Sharan. Sharan. Isabel is ISABELLE, I think, and then space, and then CHEREN. I don't actually have it handy here, otherwise I'd pull it up. She also did a one on Sansar this week, and last week we brought you the sad news about Ebbe Altberg, the CEO of Linden Labs, who passed away. There is a memorial in Second Life, which she's also covered. But because of his connection with Sansar, the folks at Sansar here have also created a memorial site in Sansar as well. And Isabel came into Sansar and filmed that. Fortunately, well, I'm going to see, when I get to the bottom of my list, I'm going to see if I can find my way back to that somehow, somewhere. But we'll move on here. But this, for the moment, is Chaos Princess. And as I say, it's a piece on the future in social VR, featuring Sansar. Here we are. Right. So let me move on from that. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna head straight down to okay. Um, the Skull Ghost, yet again. This is his blog this time. It's not his. It's not an interview with him, nor is it his Peak Week or Week Peak or whatever it's called. It's an editorial about everybody's worst enemy at the moment, the God Emperor Zuki and his fake book. Fake book is DNA and VR ads. Yeah, basically looking at all the stuff. As he says, nobody should be surprised. He's come a bit early, as the expression goes. Yeah. Um, this is all his opinions. I can't read out this without spending another hour on air, as you can probably see. But if you like his thoughts on such things, then well worth reading. And it's well worth subscribing to his site so you don't miss anything, whether it's a week roundup or a peek or a review or whatever. So he covers the issue of formidable takeover of the world, the universe, and everything. SKARREDGHOST.com, skullghost.com for that one. And another video here. Another edition of Coffee and VR. This is probably the closest of the videos I post that comes to being concerned with gaming. I will click on this because one of the features on this particular week's show is, guess what? Stopping
controller tracking to
stopping the ads in VR. Nobody, as I said, is at all happy about this. So they're talking about a whole load of things, but they're also talking about stopping ads in VR. Though they do make a joke at the end about there's some much more on this non-ad-free episode, which makes me think they've got some adverts in there somewhere, if only for themselves. I think they're joking. Their site, anyway, the show's called Coffee and VR. It's sort of well, it's fairly regular. I don't think it's actually weekly. The site, the YouTube you need to get to is Rendered Reality. Now that's two words squashed together as one. So RenderEreality, and that of course is at YouTube. And that's a 90-minute show. That one. There's the two of them talking there, and then they've got a screen behind them, where they show other stuff during the course of the program. And finally, the final video here, as it were, is F Reality's podcast. Now, there's not really much to talk about here, but I will cross it. It's about 4 minutes of them saying...
Hello, guys. You might remember us. We're a group of lads that used to have a VR podcast called the F Reality.
Yeah, you get the idea. They're only there for about 4.5 minutes, but basically they're just telling you they're still around and they will be back when they got themselves sorted. So it's really just an update. I must say, I thought I hadn't seen them for a few weeks anyway. They're obviously on the kind of hiatus, but they thought they'd better come back just to make sure you know they're alive and all that essential stuff. So you will find them at F Reality. FREALITY space VR space podcast. F Reality VR podcast. Again, that address is on YouTube. Where else? So I'm on the very last item now, and I've got to go up a bit. Right, there we are. And the reason it's the last one is this one. A lot of people, Will Burns and a couple of other people retweeted this and commented on it. I posted this morning. It came up somewhere this morning, basically. And a lot of people have actually said that it's an extremely well-written article on what will become the new metaverse. Our experience of the interface that grants us access to the virtual can, however, changed very quickly. New immersive technologies have been developed, and behind the scenes there is a battle of ownership and dominance over what will become the new brackets metaverse. Since beginning the World Wide Web 30 years ago, the amount of cultural and social activity on the web has escalated exponentially, accelerated by ongoing pandemic. We now have a sense of how much can be done virtually, but also perhaps of also how unsatisfying it may feel. And the metaverse, which to this day is more of an idea than what is a full-blown reality, refers to the ever-expanding virtuality that we share. As humans living in the information age, our being in world is increasingly mediated, not medicated, mediated, medicated by the God Emperor. No, sorry, mediated by being able to record and transfer almost every inconceivable human activity as digitized information. We work in the abstract realm of the virtual. The metaverse is the ultimate realization of this pattern, not through computers and smartphones necessarily, but through powerful immersive technologies such as VR and AR. When these technologies become accessible, which may happen sooner than we think, the value of such a metaverse will be hard to even imagine. And they go on. But Will was raving about this article, and yeah, I thought it was a good article too. I don't get through an awful lot of them. It does have to refer to the obvious. But the battle of the metaverse has only just begun, because where we humans are, we can be affected, whether this is through advertising or political conviction. It gets quite deep here, and it has a paragraph on the customers of the fake book. Yeah, them again, they're popping up everywhere, aren't they? Anyway, excellent article. So I very much the article to leave it on for this week. And you'll find this is rather on site, so I haven't come across it before, but it came into the feeds, and I'm very glad it did. It's matrice.no, so MATRISE, like Mat. I say matrice, maybe it's like Mat Rise, and then .no. I don't know what the suffix no is for, but it's no.
Is that Norway?
Could be. If you want a reminder, just think of nodding off. No.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is what we're about to do. Anyway, that is it. So what I'm going to do is, so any thoughts on all this last time, James? While you're doing that, I'm going to see if I can find Isabel's thing. Although,
no, I think I offered my thoughts earlier, and I went down the rabbit hole with Open Simulator, being the metaverse, but.
Yeah.
It's. It is important to have good definitions about what are we calling it, what is the true name, or what's representing it.
What's the end game?
what's the end game?
Yeah.
Right. There are just so many possibilities that, and I think I still am a person who just sees the possibilities that are represented by VR.
I think I am too, in many ways, obviously covering a lot of it and opinionating a bit, but really it's a matter of observation.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what all we can do these days, and there's an awful lot to observe. But
it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if there'll be any resolution of the, of many of these things we talk about, even within our lifetime. It's it's quite right that they kind of mentioned the sorry, I'm getting lost here. Sorry, my mind's gone blank. I've just opened Slack here because I'm looking to see if I can find the post from Second Life I was sent up.
Even though I don't, I might fly in the face of things, but I do enjoy my Oculus Quest. And the other day I downloaded there's a Star Wars pinball game, and I don't know if you were ever a pinball player, but first I said, well, who wants a pinball game? But I'll tell you, it's very, very fun, and the immersion on it is fantastic. And I've purchased pinball machines in the past, and they're not inexpensive. $400 or $500 to have a pinball machine in your home, and this one in the Oculus Quest is very, very fun. The ball responds, the playability is really, really good.
Yeah. Oh, and it's worth pointing out, by the way. God, where is my? Okay, good, but mess. We'll get my
No,
feet here.
okay.
It's worth pointing out, actually, we're talking about Second Life earlier, that Second Life is celebrating, I think it's its 18th birthday now.
Oh, right, right.
The birthday sims have actually been open pretty much all week, so there's a lot of posts going on there. There's various events that might be of interest. Safia Widdishins, for example, does a daily interview with a particular Lyndon, is in charge of a particular department and stuff like that. The Lyndon interviews, or whatever they call it. Yeah, so quite a lot there to celebrate, and stuff going on. I cannot, for the life of me, find slogging. No, that's another one. You think it'd be easy? In Slack I keep backups of all my posts in different categories, but I can't find the. Of course. Oh, maybe I should have scrolled. That would help, wouldn't it? Okay, let's go scroll down to the bottom of this list. No, this is a duplicate of the ones that are in there. So Metaworld shared news records. God, it's got to be in here somewhere. Feeds maybe. Oh no, that's Metaworld. No, I do have a backup of the Second Life feeds, but it's obviously not showing it. I will actually try and dig that up for you for next week's show. It's if you go to twitter.com/Malbones_writer, I have another feed all dedicated to Second Life there, and you will find Isabel's video on that feed. But that's very much separate from my main feed. I can't find it at the moment. So we're going to call it a wrap for this week. I think we're on pretty good time this week as well, actually.
Yeah.
Which is not too bad. Scrolled through everything rather quickly. And even managed to give you a few sort of noises. Oh, more to the point.
Oh my!
I know what I'm going to do. When we play the end music, can we actually mute the sound and play something else over it? I'll play something else here.
Sure, I think I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a background music theme, which I've come up with, which may run behind some machinery and things like that. But it's a little ambient soundtrack. It's only about a minute, but it works in a loop, so it goes on forever and ever. But I think
you'll have to tell me when to stop the broadcast, because the animation is about 8 seconds.
Oh, of course it is. Oh man, I tell you what, we won't do it that way. We will actually just play this little loop I've got hanging around here. I can't think where it came from. Well, oh lordy, what's going on here? Whilst we do our normal getting out of here business. There we are. Yeah, so I'm going to down the volume of this. So it's just in the background. I just want to see what you think of us talking over background music, just to increase the ambience, as it were. So, yeah. There we go, a little bit of music in the background. So, we're going to call it quits for this week. It's goodbye from this bloke sitting next to me.
And it's goodbye from that bloke sitting next to me.
Indeed, the two of us, James and Mal. What a show, eh? We two is one, or something. Right, okay, well, from both of us, wish you a very good week. We'll be back next Sunday, same time, same place, as it were. And in the meantime, look after yourselves and have a good week. And we will see you then. So, bye for now.